What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to spool and use a baitcaster. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking, a baitcaster, kind of intimidating. Trust me, when I first started using a baitcaster, I backlashed like no tomorrow. It is a very frustrating reel to learn, but with a lot of practice, you can be very accurate and make fast casts with fast retrieves. They're an excellent reel to use. Granted, it's a little different than your normal push button spin cast other type reels, but today we're going to get into it, show you how to spool it, show you how to adjust the brakes and use it. So let's get into the video. Okay guys, I know it's going to be kind of hard to get on camera, but I'm going to do my best. You take your line, you run it through your guides all the way through. Once you get to the reel, it is very important that you pass it through the eye guide. If you just go over it, I've done it a couple times, I swear, go over it and tie onto it, you're gonna have to do it all over or re-spool it. It's a pain in the butt, so it's better just to go through your guide first and then come to your reel. All of my reels, I get them with these perforated spools. I haven't owned one that's smooth, so what I do is, you see these holes, I just go through one and come out the other. As you can see on that knot, I just went through both of those and I tied 2 overhand knots. It doesn't have to be a big fancy knot, just 2 overhand knots does it. If a fish ever gets you all the way down to this knot, you kind of never had the fish to begin with. If he spooled out all your line and gets you to here, you didn't deserve the fish because he ran you all the way out. So 2 overhand knots right there does really nicely, and all you do from there is get tension on the line. I usually get my wife, I run a pencil through the spool of line and get my wife to sit on the couch and hold it as I spool it up. But since I didn't have to re-spool this line, it was already spooled, I just strung it out and all my line is on the floor right now in a big old mess. So I'm going to reel this up and I'm going to show you exactly about where you need to stop, and then we will go from there. And keep in mind, as you're spooling the line, I always kind of pinch the line out here with my 2 fingers. Be careful, once you do start getting fast, this line can really burn you, especially if you're using braid. So just kind of keep some tension there with your index finger and your thumb, and just kind of reel it in. You'll see it start laying itself nice and beautifully on the line. Just make sure everything's going on real smooth, not a whole lot of line twists, and that's about it. You just keep reeling and reeling and reeling. Okay guys, now that we got it all spooled up, you always, I don't know if you can see kind of the red spool there, you always want to kind of stop about 1/8 of an inch from the lip of that spool. I've found that if you go past the spool too much, it tends to backlash more, you tend to get more bird's nest, and if you don't fill it up all the way to that point, it ruins your castability. You don't get to cast as far, so you kind of find the happy medium. I find it about 1/8 of an inch from the lip of that red spool, and call it good right there. Alright, now that we're ready to go, we got our line in, we got a lure tied on the end. I'll show you there in a second. So now you have 2 braking systems on your modern Baitcasters. One is on the side, your main brake. It'll have a, if I can get that to focus, it'll have like a minimum mark and a maximum mark. If you're a beginner, trust me, you're going to want to grab that dial and turn that sucker all the way to the max. I've been fishing Baitcasters for a couple years now, and sometimes I still have to put it on the max. I'm not that great with these. So once you got your main brake to the max, if you flip the reel over, oh, let's do it this way. On the other side, you have a knob that's usually right beside your reel on the side. And if you move it, it goes back and forth. It'll rock forward and rock away. Turning it to the right, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it turns them brakes really, really tight. So when you turn it all the way tight, if you look down, oops, at the lure, I just hit the button and the lure does not go anywhere. So what you want to do when you first get everything ready, you want to tie on the lure that you desire, whether it's a weight or a lure, it doesn't matter. And you want to put that brake all the way to the max, and you want to tighten this one all the way down to the right. You want it all the way tight. So what you're going to do then is you're going to hit the button. The spool is released, but as you see, the spool is not moving. Even if I kind of bounce the lure a little bit on the end, no line is coming out of my spool. So in order to fine tune it, you grab the small brake knob and you slowly start turning it back towards you, like painfully slow. And once you get to a certain point, that lure is going to fall, as it just did, but y'all couldn't see it. So I'm going to tighten it back up, and I'm going to back up away from the camera as best I can to where y'all can see what's going on. We're going to reel it back up towards the top. And right there, I'm going to hit the button. Nothing happens. I'm going to slowly release the knob, and you see the lure starts falling down. Now, when you start backing the brake off, if you do it too much, like I said, you have it, it's released. If you go too fast with this knob, the lure is just going to fall to the ground and you're going to get bird's nest in your spool. So it is very important to go really, really slow once you have it released. You go really, really slow. Hopefully y'all can see the lure in the background. I know it's not in focus. See how it slowly fell? And then as a beginner, that's where you want it. You want it to slowly fall. You don't want it to fall really fast. As you get more experience, you can start playing with it, backing it off, and you can make it to where it falls once you get better with it. But as a beginner, I recommend just hitting the button and slowly letting it fall down. Now that we got everything dialed in, it is time to give her a few casts. Now that you have your brake turned, this dialed in, it is exactly where it needs to be. When you're going to cast and you hit the button, the thumb release, you have to be sure to keep your thumb with pressure on the spool. If you do not keep pressure on the spool with your thumb, your lure is immediately going to drop. So keep your thumb on the spool, and when you lean back to cast it, as the lure is flying through the air, keep your thumb on the spool. Just not pressing hard, because then you're not going to be able to cast at all. When you cast it, just let your thumb feather on top of the line. Just let the spool be turning, but your thumb just lightly, just letting it kind of go over the top of the spool. And when your lure, weight, or whatever you're throwing is about to hit the water, hopefully the water, not a tree, because I do that a lot. Once it is about to hit the water, you want to stop the spool. You want to press it and stop it. If the lure is still flying and hits the water, the lure will stop, but your spool will keep going, and you will notice that you are going to get a lot of backlash and bird's nest. So as you press the button, you hold your thumb on the spool, as you cast it and let it go, you kind of keep your thumb right on top of the spool, kind of feather it out, and right before the weight or lure hits the water, you will need to stop it. You have to stop the spool, and then once it's there, you click the handle and engage the reel, and you're good to go. You retrieve your line. When you go to another cast, you hit the button, keep pressure on it, you cast, let your thumb off, kind of gliding down on the spool, and then you stop it right before it hits the water. It's very important that you remember to stop the spool. Now, you're going to get backlashes. I've never met not one person that started using a baitcaster and didn't get any backlashes. So let's say, this is painful, but I'm gonna make a backlash. You're gonna go, and then that happens. It's really easy to happen. Trust me, you're gonna be like, holy crap, I didn't even do anything. And it's like this. It can be frustrating, but just take a deep breath, and what you'll do is you'll put your thumb on the spool and you'll slowly start peeling out line. It's real slow. You don't want to do it too fast, because you're gonna make the bird's nest a whole lot worse than what it is. As you can see, that line is just like everywhere. That is a fisherman's nightmare. You see that and you're like, crap, because time you spend doing this is time that you could be fishing. But as long as you keep pressure with your thumb a little bit and slowly start peeling the line out, I don't know if you can see it, but all those curls are gone. Luckily, this one was really easy, but trust me, I've spent up to an hour trying to get a backlash out of my reel. Sometimes I even have to take the scissors and cut it all out like a moron and have to re-spool. So that one, we got lucky on that one. But trust me, when you first start, that is how you get backlashes out. You just keep your thumb on there and slowly start dragging out line. If at any time when you're dragging out line and it gets knots up to where it won't pull out anymore, that's when you kind of have to start kind of picking out the little strings and stretching them out a little bit, and then try it again. Pick them out a little more and try it again. It's kind of a headache, but trust me, once you get good at using this reel, it's a excellent type of reel to use as a bait caster. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode on how to spool and use a baitcaster. Baitcasters can be extremely tricky and extremely frustrating, but once you get practice with it and you get the hang of it, there are actually very nice reels. There's one of my favorite reels that I do own are Baitcasters. So I hope I helped you with how to spool it, how to kind of tweak the brakes a little bit. As you get out in your backyard and you start casting the weight around, you know, or even out on the water, you kind of get the hang of it pretty quickly. But those backlashes can be frustrating, let me tell you. So I hope I helped y'all today with this video. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Share the channel, it always helps me out. We're almost 350 subscribers, which is flipping awesome. So thank y'all for all the support, and we will catch y'all in the next video.